Imagine waking up in a world where global power has completely shifted, where the strongest economy of the last century is no longer alone at the top, and a country that was once poor, isolated, and struggling is now challenging the world's most powerful nation, not in theory, but in real life. Because what you are about to hear is not just history, it is a transformation that changed the entire global order, and it happened in just a few decades. Now the question is simple: how did China become a global superpower? And more importantly, what comes next? To understand China's rise, we need to go back to 1949, a country devastated by war, a population mostly rural, industry almost non-existent, and extreme poverty across millions of households. When the Communist Party came to power under Mao Zedong, China chose a centrally planned economy. The government controlled production, prices, and distribution. Private businesses were almost eliminated. The goal was self-reliance, but the result was very different. Economic growth remained unstable, innovation slowed down, and the country remained largely disconnected from the global economy. But the biggest shock was still ahead: the Great Leap and Collapse. Between 1958 and 1962, China launched a massive campaign. It was called the Great Leap Forward. The idea was simple: transform China from an agricultural society into an industrial giant. But reality was far more complex. Agricultural systems collapsed, steel production targets failed, and misinformation from local officials made the situation worse. A severe famine followed. Millions of lives were lost. This became one of the darkest chapters in modern economic history. China had learned a painful lesson: rapid transformation without economic balance leads to disaster. But the story does not end here. In fact, the biggest transformation was still coming. The turning point. After Mao's death, China entered a new era. In 1978, a leader named Deng Xiaoping changed everything. His philosophy was simple: results matter more than ideology. He focused on economic growth instead of political theory. This became the foundation of modern China, and it changed the country forever. Because for the first time in decades, China decided to open its doors. Opening the economy, China created special economic zones in coastal cities. These zones were different. Foreign companies were allowed to invest. Private businesses were encouraged. Trade restrictions were reduced, and markets slowly became more flexible. This sent a powerful signal to the world: China was open for business, and the world responded instantly. Factories moved in, technology transferred in, and investment started flowing at massive scale. This was the beginning of China's economic explosion. The economic explosion. From the late 1970s onward, China experienced extraordinary growth. Year after year, the economy expanded at extremely high rates. Cities expanded rapidly. Villages transformed into industrial hubs. Infrastructure developed at record speed. Highways, railways, ports, and airports appeared across the country. Hundreds of millions of people were lifted out of poverty over time. This was not normal growth. This was one of the fastest economic transformations in human history. But what actually powered this growth? The answer is critical: the engine of China's rise. China's rise was built on several powerful factors working together. First, high domestic savings. Money stayed inside the economy and was reinvested into growth. Second, massive manufacturing capacity. China became the global production hub for everything from electronics to machinery. Third, foreign investment and technology transfer. Global companies brought capital, knowledge, and efficiency. Fourth, government-driven long-term planning. The state directed infrastructure and industrial development strategically. Fifth, education and engineering focus. Millions of skilled workers supported industrial expansion. Together, these forces created an economic engine that kept accelerating. China goes global. As China grew stronger, its influence expanded worldwide. It became one of the largest exporters in the world. Global supply chains began to depend heavily on Chinese manufacturing. Products across the planet were now linked to China. From smartphones to clothing to machinery, China was no longer just a developing country. It had become a central pillar of the global economy. Global strategy and Belt and Road. In the 21st century, China expanded its strategy beyond trade. It launched large infrastructure investments across Asia, Africa, and Europe. This initiative is known as the Belt and Road Strategy. China funded and built ports, railways, road networks, energy systems. This expanded China's economic and political influence across multiple continents. But rapid growth always comes with challenges. The challenges begin. China now faces serious internal pressures. The population is aging rapidly. Fewer workers are entering the labor force. Debt levels have increased in certain sectors, and the economy is shifting from manufacturing to innovation and consumption. At the same time, global trade tensions create additional uncertainty. These challenges do not erase China's rise, but they do shape its future. The final question today: China stands as one of the most powerful nations in the world. It leads in manufacturing, it has massive global influence, and it continues to grow in technology and infrastructure. But the future remains uncertain. Will China surpass the United States as the world's largest economy, or will internal challenges slow its rise? One thing is already clear. China has changed the global balance of power forever, and the world will never look the same again, because the 21st century is still being written. If you want to understand how global power will shift in the next 20 years, then the China story is only the beginning.